And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection. I'm your host, Robert Pictou. Our show today comes to you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Tsimshian people. With over $116 million raised, Tour de Cure's funding has fueled innovation in breast cancer research, clinical trials, BC Cancer supportive care initiatives, and these are just some of the over the 20 programs supported by Tour de Cure. On today's Open Connection, Steve Weir shares why he does Tour de Cure.
Well, the Tour de Cure is British Columbia's largest fundraising cycling event. It's a 2-day event. We will start in Langley, and the ride will terminate the next day in Hope. So it was called previously the Ride to Hope, or the Tour de Cure, or the Ride to Conquer Cancer. It's changed a couple times, but yeah, it's a very large event. We usually raise about $10 million a year on this ride. All of that money goes to the British Columbia Cancer Foundation, and that money is used to improve the quality of life for many, many people.
When did you first become involved with Tour de Cure?
About 12 years ago, a very good friend of mine that was battling cancer participated in the ride. He came home energized. He was just fantastic. He was pumped. He said, "This is the most amazing thing he'd ever done in his life. You got to join me." I hadn't ridden a bike since I was 16 years old. I got my driver's license, parked the bike. Who needed it, right? And so I gave him a $100 donation and said, back the next day after the ride, and again, was just energized. You got to join me. You got to join me. And again, my interest in joining him on the ride was nil. The following year, my friend's cancer returned, and he was unable to ride. And it struck me then the thing I wanted to do most in the world was ride with my friend. So I joined the ride. I rode without him that year. It was a very emotional experience. You know, I spent quite a bit of time riding alone. It's 250 kilometers roughly you ride. So it's some time alone with your thoughts and and your prayers and your wishes and your hopes, and it's just a lot of time to think. And there was 2 people on that ride, my very first ride. I will never know who they are. There was, because you come across spectators, and there was a young mother holding a child, probably 18 months old. And as I rode by, and the weather was terrible. It was windy, it was rainy, it was just nasty. But she had bundled up herself and her baby, and they were out there. And as I rode by, she looked up and she mouthed the word "thank you" to me. And so, I can only imagine what her story is, what brought her out there personally, and for her to thank me as I rode by. And then a little while later, I rode past a elderly gentleman set well back from the road. He was kind of leaning against a fence underneath a tree, trying to shelter himself. And as I rode by, he made eye contact with me and just touched his heart. And oh my God, I couldn't even look at him. My eyes welled up, the tears were rolling down my face. And you come across, you have so many emotions that go through you on this ride. There's hope, and there's sadness, and there's joy, and it's an amazing emotional ride. As much as far as you ride physically, you ride emotionally as well. So that was my first year. Subsequently, 2 years later, my friend was healthy enough to ride with me, and that was an amazing experience. And we crossed the finish line and had a long cry together.
What year did this occur?
That was 10 years ago. And so that was my first ride 10 years ago. And it used to be on Father's Day. They've moved it now to the last weekend of August. So it was Father's Day. I was on this ride. Amazing experience. I got off my bike and signed up for the next year. That's how cool it was. So that was Father's Day. So May of whatever year that would have been, 2014, I guess. And made plans with that gentleman that I wanted to ride with to go to Italy. We were supposed to travel to Italy in September. on literally the last possible day before we left for this trip together, my son was diagnosed with cancer. And we ended up staying at the BC Cancer Clinic with him. We didn't know, he was medevac to Vancouver. I drove down the car because I didn't know if he was going to be there for a day, a week, 6 months, what my reality was going to be. And one of the side effects of the chemo that he was going through was night confusion. So he'd wake up in the middle of the night and not know where he was, what was happening. You know, he had just turned 19. So a young man, all of a sudden, from healthy to battling cancer, fighting for his life in the course of a weekend, really. And so I ended up sleeping with my family, my wife and my son and I. We slept at BC Cancer together. We slept by his bed. And the staff and the treatment and the love and the care that facility provided to every patient. You know, I swore then that I would ride every year until I can't ride anymore. And then when I can't ride anymore, I'll volunteer. It was just that profound an experience for us that this funding goes to help.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thanks for staying with us. When you or a loved one is diagnosed with cancer, Canadian Cancer Society's online peer support community is there to help. You'll find people who have been there and who can offer support, tips, and insights from their lived experience. Let us return to the conversation as Steve shares the importance of connecting with others.
Nobody in this world hasn't been impacted by cancer. You know, whether it's a loved one you've lost, or whether it's a personal battle, or it's a loved one you supported as they fought their fight, nobody's untouched. But as I said, I started the ride for my friend Sandy Giordano, and I continued to ride even after he passed because of the captain of the team we were on, Francis Wolf. Francis had been on every single ride from its inception until this year. He passed in December of this year from cancer. His cancer was like so many, it's vicious. It comes back and it comes back and it comes back. And so while I was visiting Francis' bedside, we were talking about the ride, because although we'd worked together at two different places, that's what brought us together the most. That was our touchstone. That's where we connected the most. And in order to honor his memory and his energy and keep his goals and alive, we've renamed the team. So the team is now For Francis. So we're going to come together and we're going to ride on our team for Francis and keep his vision moving forward. He was about supporting men and women. Men are kind of goofy, aren't we? Because we don't talk about what our struggles are. We don't talk about our pains, and quite often we are hesitant to go and get diagnosed or you know. But Francis was always helping people get through that hurdle. Go get yourself help. He was pushing people to get screened and get the treatment needed, and assisting people, you know, giving them rides, helping them get to and from chemo and such like that. So that was we just want to keep his dream alive. So that's why we renamed the team and coming together riding for Francis. And this year, actually, we're going to be joined by his youngest son, who is where I was 10 years ago. What do I need a bike for? I have a driver's license. He's struggling now as he's increasing his training, getting ready for this 100 kilometers a day. I do have a little bit lighter, a little bit quicker bike than the one I started with. One of the things I thought it was going to be a chore riding, but it's something I actually look forward to, because the camaraderie and the team spirit that we build as we train together. Every year we try to, We didn't last year, and I don't know if we're going to get a chance this year, but we ride to Terrace together and do things like that. Ride to Terrace for ice cream. So it's things like that have created a love for cycling for me. I look forward to getting out there on my bike and doing 50 or 100K. And just it's a nice way to relax and be alone with your thoughts and yourself. And at the same time, if you want to talk to somebody, just pick up your cadence a bit. You ride up beside somebody and have a chat for a few minutes, and they'll drift away or you'll drift away. You'll be home with your own thoughts again.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to Open Connection. The word team stands for together, everyone achieves more. The goal becomes easier when pursued together. When you have a task of achieving a particular distance, riders can help each other maintain a certain pace and move with momentum. Riders can motivate each other to do their best and deliver a trailblazing performance. Let us return the conversation as Steve shares more about Team for Francis.
Probably had 15 different members through the years on that team. But this year we have 5. But it's people whose lives were touched by Francis. So it's a very intimate group of riders who were impacted by Francis.
Where does the event take place?
Well, we start in Langley and we ride to Hope, but it's not along the freeway, of course, because that wouldn't be safe. They find a very surreptitious, hilly route for us. They take us down to Zero Avenue, and then we overnight at the Chilliwack Heritage Center. That is an amazing experience too, because now you have these at least 2,000 riders, sometimes more, between 2,000 and 3,000 riders coming together with probably about 800 to 1,000 volunteers. And we all have this common drive that brought us there. We camp together that night, and we eat together, we break bread together, and yeah, it's an incredible weekend. So, but actually, one of the things that is going to be difficult, emotional, but such an honor is every year before the ride starts. And it's usually just the riders that see this. It's not the spectators get to see this. There's a very quiet but emotional moment where a riderless bike is brought forward. And this bicycle represents those that can't ride any longer and the bikes that are left behind. And this year, the Tour de Cure is honoring Francis because it's his bike that will be brought forward in the riderless bike procession. So it'll be a very difficult moment for us, but something that we are looking forward to. Francis's impact wasn't just here in Prince Rupert. It was felt throughout the province, and the Tour de Cure and the Ride to Conquer Cancer, the Ride to Hope. He made an impact with all those.
Each year you go down kind of reuniting and rekindling those friendships of people you've met on the tour?
Well, certainly you see you see the same faces every year. There's core riders, and Francis was definitely a core rider, and then there's people that come in for a year or two and then they drift away. But yeah, there's people that I'm looking forward to seeing, because during these last few years, during the COVID years, we didn't come together to ride. We'd still fundraise, and there was a ride, but you were encouraged to stay in your own community and do something, simulate the ride somehow. Last year, what I did on my birthday, I rode 160 kilometers for my birthday, because I thought it was a way to celebrate, turned 61, 160, so nice way to celebrate my birthday. Somebody received a cancer diagnosis. They don't get to pick and choose what day they go for chemo, what day they're fighting it. They don't pick to take an easier road. And to honor those people and honor the people that donate money towards me, I train, rain, shine, sideways winds, what have you, because like I said, it's the least I can do. I can't imagine, well, I've seen it. I've been there when my son received a diagnosis, but I can't imagine what it would be like personally. The pain that we go through on a bicycle is probably 1/1000th of just hearing those words, let alone the fight that's ahead of you. So yeah, the weather doesn't stop me because I don't let it. Just like somebody battling cancer doesn't let the weather or the fact that they don't feel well today or anything get in their way. The Tour de Cure has a huge sponsorship through Weed Precious Metals. Like they look after when we come together and we camp, and just the logistics and all the expense of bringing that many riders into one spot and housing them, intense. But it's still there's a lot of expense, and none of the $10 million that we raise goes towards that. That money is all from donations from companies to support the ride. So like if you give me $100, $100 goes, every penny of it goes to the BC Cancer Foundation. So none of that money. So there are several companies that support us. Again, it's humbling when you get down there and you see the effort and the scope of this ride. We drive down, and that's another one of those team building events where we drive down. We often stay in Williams Lake at a house that somebody used to live here in Prince Rupert, and they host us, and it's part of the experience, part of the team building. And then we drive home. The drive home is much quieter than the drive down.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
BC Cancer operates 6 regional cancer centers, providing assessment and diagnostic services, chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and supportive care. They work in partnership with communities to provide a network of chemotherapy clinics so patients can receive care closer to home. In this final segment of Open Connection, Steve shares his experience visiting the Vancouver clinic.
Sometimes you'll ask somebody for a donation. They say, no, I want to keep my money in Prince Rupert. And that's fine. I totally respect that. But I defy anybody to go down and sit in the lobby of the BC Cancer Clinic, for a day and not see somebody they know walk through that door. We were there for the first time we were there for a week. And as I said, I slept there. So quite often we were milling about the building. Every day I saw people from the North Coast in there. I saw people from Terrace. I saw people from Prince George. I saw people from Smithers coming in because that's where they went. And that's the best place for them. World-class treatment, absolutely leading edge. Some of the breakthroughs that we've helped have benefited people across the world, because this isn't something they just keep for BC. These benefits to cancer treatment, they don't hold on to them. So, I like I said, I can appreciate somebody saying they want their money to stay in Prince Rupert, but money given to the BC Cancer Foundation can improve the life of my wife's sister living in Italy. It's that profound and that impactful, what the work they're doing. It's interesting. Each floor is different because they have the medical offices on the first several floors, and then where my son was staying was on the 4th floor. And that is a very tight unit because these people they have a commonality about them that you and I certainly don't know your personal experience, but I don't have that experience within me. I haven't received that diagnosis. And they bond in such a way that it's incredible. You watch them. And I remember we visited a lady, my son and I, one of his follow-up chemo trips. We were visiting lady from Prince Rupert who we heard she was there, and we went and knocked on her door. She said, "Oh yeah, just give me a minute." And so she put her makeup on and wanted to look her best for, fellow Prince Rupertites. And we went in and we had a beautiful visit with her. And she died that night. And for my son, that really brought it home for him, how fortunate he was, and how real his situation was at the time. Because I remember him saying, but she was laughing, but she was just sitting here laughing with us like 5 hours ago. That was, yeah. So that floor is amazing. If you go up a floor, that's where people are going up for their day chemo. And that's kind of an interesting area. We went up there, and again, we were in the foyer of this building, and a woman walked through that I had worked with her husband here in Prince Rupert. And so my wife went up and sat with her on the 6th floor as she got her day chemo. And that's an interesting, again, it's a different vibe up there, because these are people going through treatments, and their battle is very real. You go down a floor where the medical clinics are and where the diagnostic clinics are. It's sad. You're there and you're watching people who are, bracing themselves for receiving some of the worst news of their life, either for themselves or for the person they're accompanying, their loved ones. But the level of care and compassion and understanding that the staff has there, I was blown away by it. I don't know how they could do it day after day, month after month, going and working in such an intense environment and helping people with the dedication, the love, and the amazing care that they were getting. It's just, it's a special place. Unfortunately, it has to exist. I would love it, absolutely love it, if we could say, "Nope, we're done with cancer. We can get rid of it." But unfortunately, that's not our reality. And I know. I'm just going to change the subject here while I think of it. A few years ago, I was invited to give the survivors talk at the Relay for Life, which really surprised me. Why me? Like, I'm not a survivor. But sadly, I am. I am my friend Francis's survivor, because I have to keep his voice alive. My friend Sandy, I'm a survivor because I survived for him, and I have to keep his voice alive. And so we have to pick up the banner from those people that have fallen, and we have to survive for them. And we have to carry that fight forward, and we have to find a way. We just have to find a way.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but the connection from his mind and heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.